Guy has a nightly forum to keep promoting and promoting and promoting this crap about Reagan. Day in and day in and day in and day in, and the people he attacks, they don't have such access to you. It's outrageous to tell me, oh, we did extensive research. No, you didn't. No, you didn't at all. There are 20 people alive who work with Reagan on a daily basis, maybe 30 people. You didn't interview a single one of them because you didn't want them to screw up your hypothesis, your allegation. And so obviously they speak out, not because they have some sinister motive, not because they dislike you, sir, not because they're out to get your channel or your network, because they're appalled at what you and your lawyer co-author have written, because it's unencumbered with reality. That's why. That's why. Now, I've invited you publicly on this program to debate this book, and you haven't come on. I get it. You're more comfortable in your own surroundings. That's okay. But you're free to do it. Equal time, fairness, and so forth and so on. But you're talking about, in many cases, old men and old women who worked for Ronald Reagan, men who are well into their 80s and women well into their 90s. Now they're having to respond to this stuff, and you should have interviewed them. Dugard should have interviewed them. You should have interviewed a whole lot of them. But you didn't. That's not how scholars and historians work. No, it's not. Look at the opportunity you had to actually put your name on a book that was thoroughly accurate and thoughtful. But you couldn't do it. And so you get on there day in and day out. And Fox News allows you, quite frankly, day in and day out to pump this crap into the public domain where younger people have no idea because they weren't living during the Reagan administration. And I just hope you folks out there, you'll correct the record and you'll give them access to actual historical books with real scholarship from people who've actually interviewed people, among other things. Oh, you're part of the conspiracy, Mark. You worked for Reagan for 8 years. Yeah, I did. How about that? That means I'm part of the people who are knowledgeable about him. Oh, and some crackpots, even in this business, go, oh, Reagan, Reagan, Reagan. Where were they when Reagan was president? Where were they when Reagan was? They were AWOL. O'Reilly was AWOL. I'm not an activist. I'm a journalist. Okay, got it. And the book? That's journalism? What is it? They're not even selling it at the Reagan Library. Well, of course not, Frank. He takes these self-serving emails. Of course not, Frank. They don't want this there. Me, Big Bill, I'm just a victim of this thing. Of course they don't want it there. Because it says things that they're uncomfortable with. Just listen to how screwed up this is. And it is screwed up. All right, enough of that crap, quite frankly. O'Reilly, yeah, pretty close. Out there with his reckless attacks right now against George Shultz and others. He says these are coordinated attacks. This is rank propaganda, the 6th op-ed against his precious book. And then he wants you to believe, look, this is a great story. This is a story of a man who overcame an assassination attempt and fought through his problems, but in the end was an enormously successful president. That's not what it is. It's a smear job. What's going on here, he wants to know. Well, all these people know each other. Yes, you doofus. They worked for the same president. There were over 3,000 people, non-civil servants, who worked for that president in that administration, and you should have talked to them. He's going on and on and on. He is exactly what he accuses people who are challenging him of being. This is rank propaganda, ladies and gentlemen. These are coordinated attacks. Well, who's coordinating with whom? The 95-year-old George Shultz sitting around a telephone coordinating with 4 historians? George Will coordinating with somebody? What's that based on, genius? 6 op-eds? There could be 106 op-eds, and in your mind that would show the growing conspiracy against you and your book. The amazing story about Reagan is an amazing story. It's not what's between the covers of your book, 8 p.m.er. I'm more than happy to debate you on my program, so you can't cut me off. But he wouldn't even talk to any of these men or any of these women, several of whom are elderly at this point. My buddy Jeffrey Lord, a rather well-known writer and columnist. He was a speechwriter for Ronald Reagan. He's about my age. They didn't talk to him. Well, of course not, because you know Levin. Mona Charen, a columnist for National Review, also a speechwriter for Reagan. I don't believe they spoke to her. There are scores of us. And we don't sit, I don't know the last time I spoke to Mona Charen. There are scores and scores of us. Some don't even know the other. So this idea that this is rank propaganda, the book is rank crap, coordinated attacks because of 6 op-eds. There should be 106 op-eds. And then he positions himself as telling a story of a great hero because despite all of his mental problems and physical problems, look how successful Reagan was. Well, Mark, that's because you were chief of staff to Ed Meese. Has nothing to do with that. There were people I worked with in the Reagan administration who I liked and people I couldn't stand. There's nothing in it for me or anybody else to prop up Ronald Reagan. We don't need to prop up Ronald Reagan. You see, Bill O'Reilly, lots and lots of history books have been written about President Reagan, including by liberals. We know about Reagan, many people, even if they didn't work for him, even if they weren't alive during his terms. And none of them does what you do. None of them. It's as if you're writing for the Daily Kos. It's as if you're writing for the leftist Think Progress or Mother Jones magazine. Don't start smearing everybody who worked for Reagan and actually knew him, O'Reilly, while you were struggling at some TV station or on the Current Affair and other people were trying to reverse what Carter had done and destroy the Soviet Union and get the economy working again. You didn't do any of those things. You benefited from them. And more of us need to speak out. Many, many more of us. But they're afraid. They don't want to be attacked by the guy. They don't want to be banned or blackballed. But when he goes on TV and he unleashes against honorable men and honorable women, real historians and scholars, men and women who helped defeat the Soviet Union, men and women who helped save this nation from Jimmy Carter and the leftists, when he goes on the air and accuses them of conspiracies and rank propaganda, and these men are in their 80s and their 90s, the hell with him! Why should we believe him? Sorry, but I've had it with this. And the fact that he hasn't been, forget it. I've said my piece.